April 5, 1980, Holy Week was in its last days in Toledo, Ohio, USA. Holy Week is a very special religious week for the Christian community. It comes before Easter, and during this time the last days of Jesus Christ are remembered. The little chapel at Mercer Hospital was very quiet that Saturday morning. Candles burned dimly, and only the faint sounds of the hospital could be heard on the tiled floor. Sister Margaret and Paul, 71, spent her entire life serving God and the church. He was born April 6, 1908, in Edgewater, Ohio. She was the fourth of 9 siblings and grew up in a very religious Catholic family. Since childhood he had a feeling of faith and service for God. As a young woman, she joined the Sisters of Mercy convent. By 1980 she was looking after the chapel at Mercer Hospital. She used to do her work very honestly and regularly. People considered her a very religious and strict woman. She took the traditions of the church very seriously. A few days before Easter, he had said that the Good Friday prayer meeting had been shortened more than necessary, which he did not like. The prayer meeting that day was conducted by Father Gerard Robinson. He also worked in the same hospital. People in the area considered him a quiet and somewhat shy priest, but dedicated to his work. Till that time, no public scandal or criminal case had been brought against him. On the morning of Holy Saturday, April 5, 1980, the hospital was running on a weekend schedule. There was no expectation of a prayer service in the chapel that morning. Sister Margaret went into a small room adjoining the chapel. There she was preparing for Easter Sunday. This was nothing new for him. She had done such things many times. At around 8:15 a.m., another nun opened the door of that room. As soon as the door opened, the nun's hands and legs started trembling at what she saw. In front, Sister Margaret was lying on the floor and there was not even a slight movement in her body. There was blood spread on the tiles. The candles kept in the room were still burning. His clothes were pushed up, due to which some part of his body was clearly visible. Looking at the entire scene, it seemed as if someone had deliberately created the place in such a way that it appeared as if someone had forced himself on Sister Margaret. All of Toledo was caught up in one question. Who could have murdered that sister who had served God and society for more than 50 years? Music. Hello, I'm Silo and you're watching Hindi Crime Expose. Before moving ahead, if you like to hear such shocking crime cases from India and the world, then subscribe to the channel. If you like the video, don't forget to like it and also share your thoughts and suggestions in the comments. This little love and support from you helps a lot in growing my channel. So let's get back to the story now. Little Sister Margaret, who saw the body, ran out and immediately informed the police that a murder had taken place inside the chapel. The police arrived within a short time. That quiet and sacred place was sealed. When the investigating officers examined Sister Margaret's body carefully, the first thing they noticed was her neck. There were clear ligature marks. The deep marks, swelling, and injuries around the neck clearly indicated that he had been strangled to death with great force. Whoever did this used all their strength and did not stop until they stopped breathing. But the matter did not stop at just strangulation. After the death, the attacker attacked again. His body was stabbed a total of 31 times. Some of the blows were very deep, as if they were struck with full force. Some were mild and had been pricked repeatedly. These attacks were specifically made on his chest, neck and face. And what was most frightening was the pattern of these wounds. The holes on the chest were visible in a special shape. Almost, music, shaped like a cross. But it was the opposite. The inverted cross is commonly associated with satanic symbols. As if someone not only committed murder but also tried to leave a message. Apart from this, a small mark of blood was also found on his forehead. It looked as if someone had deliberately applied something with his own blood on his forehead. The investigation team was shocked to think that the murderer took time even after the murder and did this to the body. After this, the attacker put a cloth on his body. Seeing all this, it seemed as if this was not a sudden attack carried out in anger, but everything was done as per plan. Immediately after the murder, the police started a large-scale investigation. This case was given top priority. Detectives Dinar were working that Easter weekend in 1980. Hospital staff were questioned. The priests were questioned. Nanu was also asked about his movements. Everyone who was in the building that morning was spoken to. Every small and big evidence was collected from the room where the murder took place. Every corner was visited, photographs were taken. An important thing came to light. There were no signs of forced entry into the chapel. Neither any door nor any window was broken, and no valuables were stolen from there. This clearly meant that this was not a case of theft. But another thing came to light. A pair of scissors meant to be kept in the sacristy was missing. A sacristy is a small room inside a chapel or church, where things related to worship are kept, such as clothes, candles, books and other religious items. One pair of scissors was missing from its place. This deepened the suspicion further. Was the same scissors used, and did the murderer take it with him? From the beginning, suspicion fell on those who had free access to the chapel. This was not a place where an outsider could easily come and commit murder and leave. Whoever did this had complete knowledge of the place. He knew the routine, he knew the timing. The priests and nuns were interrogated one by one. Everyone had to account for their time. One of these names was 42-year-old Father Gerard Robinson. Police noted that he was among those present near the chapel at that time of the murder in the morning slot. He was one of the few people seen around there at that time. Within days of the murder, he was called in for formal questioning. The investigating officer wanted to know where he was on the morning of April 5th, what he was doing, and whether he saw or heard anything. According to police records, Father Gerald said he learned from others that something had happened in the chapel. That's why he reached there. He said that when he saw the dead body, he too was shocked. He clearly said that he had nothing to do with this horrific murder. But the police did not completely believe his words. During interrogation, his behavior seemed a bit strange to the officers. Some answers were correct, but his body language and manner raised suspicion. For this reason, the police decided to continue the investigation. On April 18, 1980, about 2 weeks after the murder, Father Zira agreed to take a polygraph test. This test was taken by a police officer. When the test results came, they showed signs of lying. The report said that his heartbeat had increased. Breathing was changing and I was sweating more. Based on this, the police officer said that Father Gerard was not telling the truth. However, polygraph tests are not considered completely reliable. These results were not made public at that time. But this further increased the police's suspicion. Still, no one could be arrested merely on the basis of suspicion. Forensic technology was not so advanced in 1980. Facilities like DNA testing were not available then. Even the fingerprints or hair found at the scene were not able to clearly prove any one person guilty. During the initial search, police found a different type of letter opener on Father Gerard's desk. That is, a small thin tool with which envelopes are opened. It was made of metal, about 8 inches long, and looked like a knife. Looking at it, it seemed that it could also be used as a weapon. But at that time the police did not have any concrete evidence to prove that the same letter opener was used in the 31 attacks on Sister Margaret. The investigation continued for several months. Different people were interrogated. But gradually the case cooled down. By the end of 1980, almost all leads had been exhausted. Whatever evidence was found was preserved, in the hope that perhaps some new technology in the future can solve this case. Suspicion remained about Father Gerald, but at the time there was insufficient evidence to officially charge him. Thus, Sister Margaret's case became a cold case. The file remained closed for years and kept gathering dust. Then suddenly in 2003 a new turn came. It was not directly related to this case but to another investigation. That year, the Catholic Diocese of Toledo was facing allegations of sexual abuse by priests. Complaints were being made against the church on a large scale. In June 2003, a woman testified before a review board. His words caused a stir throughout the Toledo area. That woman grew up there. She alleged that when she was young, some priests had committed physical abuse on her during a particular ritual. Among those whose names he mentioned was that of Father Gerald Robinson. He said some of the pastors were involved in satanic cults and strange rituals. She claimed that Father Gerard was also among those who had wronged her during the 1960s and 1970s. Initially, the diocese did not consider these allegations to be substantiated. Therefore, the matter was not escalated to the police, but it did not end there. In December 2003, the Lucas County Prosecutor's Office received an anonymous letter. It contained the allegations of the same woman, and Father Gerald's name came up again. The matter of satanic rituals could not be proved. But Father Gerald's name coming up in any violent incident was a big and serious matter for the police. So in early 2004, the police reopened the investigation into Sister Margaret's murder case. A special cold case team was formed. Experienced detectives revisited old evidence. Now forensic technology had become much better than in 1980. That is why new methods were adopted. The most important evidence was the blood-stained altar cloth that was placed on Sister Margaret Ann's body. The police sent the clothes and letter opener to forensic experts. After investigation, a forensic expert found that the shape of the letter opener completely matched the blood stains on the cloth. After so many years, the police found the link that was missing. Based on the new forensic evidence, detectives prepared a full report and spoke with the Lucas County prosecutor. On April 23, 2004, more than 24 years after the murder, police arrested 66-year-old Father Gerard Robinson at his home on charges of murdering Sister Margaret. The Lucas County grand jury later charged him with murder in the 1980 killing. He was released shortly after on a $100,000 bond. His supporters sold their properties to pay his bail. Meanwhile, the Toledo Catholic Diocese, Music, removed him from duty. He was not completely removed from the priesthood, but he was suspended till the decision of the case was announced. Father Gerald Robinson's trial began in late April 2006 in Lucas County, Ohio. The courtroom was full. Nuns, priests, and lay people were present there in large numbers. A Catholic priest is accused of such a horrific murder of a nun. This alone was enough to attract people's attention. Music, during the trial, the prosecution presented its case very carefully. His case rested not on direct evidence but on forensic evidence. He said that Father Gerard had a deep resentment towards Sister Margaret Ann. He described Sister Margaret as very strict and extremely disciplined about her work and said that the relationship between the two was not good. According to the prosecution, there was an argument between the two on Holy Saturday in 1980. He believed the debate may have been caused by the shortening of the Good Friday service the day before. Sister Margaret was not happy with this. And after this argument, Father Gerard lost his temper and in a fit of rage committed murder. To bolster his claim, he presented the results of modern forensic tests that linked Father Gerard's distinctive letter opener to the murder. The post-mortem officer also testified. He said there was a similarity between the edge of the letter opener and some of the deep wounds found on the sister's body. Sister Margaret had a deep gash on her jaw that matched the tip of the letter opener on the X-ray image. The prosecutor also drew attention to the manner of the murder. He said the nun had been stabbed more than 9 times in the heart area and the marks resembled the shape of an inverted cross, adding that it was not just a case of anger but could also be a religious insult or a satanic symbol. On the other hand, the defense challenged the prosecution's arguments at every step. He said there was no direct evidence. There are no eyewitnesses, no confessions, and no fingerprints that can directly link Father Gerald to this horrific murder. The jury was then told that DNA testing of evidence recovered from the scene did not reveal Father Gerard's name. DNA found under Sister Margaret's fingernails and on parts of her underwear did not match Father Gerald's. The defense clearly said that DNA of some other man was found on the sister's body. But Father Gerald's was not found. His aim was to create doubt in the minds of the jury to prove that the allegations were not completely true. After this, the defense team said another thing. He said that it is possible that this murder might have been committed by someone else. Perhaps another pastor or someone from the outside. He also said that Reverend Jerome Sawatki, Father Robinson's superior at the hospital, was never completely excluded from suspicion. But now he was dead. Therefore, his words could not be heard in the court. During questioning, the blood spatter analyst admitted that it was possible that another weapon may have been used in the murder. That means the case was not as strong as the prosecution was saying. Father Gerald remained seated at the defense table throughout the trial, wearing his black priestly shirt and Roman collar. There were not many expressions on his face and he remained completely calm. He repeatedly declared himself innocent. The prosecution then played a videotape in court. The video showed what he was doing when the detective left him alone in the interrogation room. The video showed Father Gerald whispering some words softly. He folded his hands and muttered, "Sister, sister," then he bowed his head as if praying. At one point he even said to himself, "Oh my Jesus." The prosecutor said it was probably a moment of remorse or him asking God for forgiveness. After hearing the testimonies and evidence for 3 weeks, the case went to jury. On the 11th of May, 2006, after about 6 hours of discussion, jury announced his verdict. Father Gerald Robinson was found guilty of the murder of Sister Margaret. When the verdict was announced, there was no special reaction on the face of this 68-year-old priest. He kept looking ahead silently. The judge immediately pronounced the sentence: life imprisonment with the possibility of parole after 15 years. Some nuns in the courtroom were shocked to hear this and some started crying. Sister Margaret's family members were sitting with their heads bowed, holding each other's hands. Like they finally had some relief. And for the first time in American history, a Catholic priest was convicted of murdering a nun. Following the sentence, Father Gerald's legal team filed an appeal. In July 2008, the Ohio District Courts of Appeals upheld the lower court's decision. Meanwhile, forensic evidence was re-examined to understand questions about unknown DNA found at the scene. In 2009, a sample found under Sister Margaret's fingernails was examined. But no other man's name came out from that. Ultimately, it was suggested that the small DNA sample found may have been caused by mishandling or from an unknown source, as the crime scene was so fragmented and many people had handled the evidence over the years. Music. Prosecutors repeatedly stated that while the DNA issue wasn't completely clear, the key evidence, the letter opener and bloodstains, clearly pointed to Gerald Robinson. Every appeals court, even the US Supreme Court, has held this to be true. Father Gerald spent the rest of his life in prison. It is said that he did not like to meet many people and sometimes some old supporters would come to meet him. He suffered a heart attack in jail in May 2014. He was then shifted to Franklin Medical Center in Columbus. There his health started deteriorating rapidly. Gordon Robinson died in custody on June 4, 2014, at the age of 76. After his death, the church faced a big question. A priest convicted of murdering a nun? A traditional funeral should be given by a priest. Finally, it was decided that he would be given these religious rituals. On July 11, 2014, about 200 people came to his prayer meeting. But some people were also protesting outside the church. It was opposed by groups of people who had been abused by priests and their supporters. He said that considering his crime, it was not right to give him a funeral with full respect. During the funeral, Reverend Charles Ritter said Father Robinson had carried a heavy burden for many years. I don't know whether that burden was of sin or of wrong decision. But now whatever burden he had is gone from him. This case not only changed the story of one person but also forced the entire community to think. People raised questions. When there is a conflict between faith and justice, what is right? For some, this decision was justice, while for others, many answers are still incomplete. But it is certain that this incident has been recorded in history as an incident which will not be easy to forget. Ultimately, this story reminds us that the truth may be hidden, it may be delayed, but the search for justice should never stop. So today's story ends here. I will come again with a new story. Until then, take care of yourself.